There is a terrifying concept in the world of deep intelligence and structural analysis, known as a cascade failure. It happens when a system does not just break at one point, but when a single, precise fracture exposes the rot inside the entire foundation, causing every subsequent layer of defense to collapse in real time. What we witnessed on the night of April 25th, 2026, inside the Washington Hilton, was not just an assassination attempt. It was the ultimate, undeniable cascade failure of the American empire's central nervous system. The mainstream media is currently spinning in circles, operating exactly as they are programmed to do. They are focusing on the panic, the screaming, the blood on the carpet, and the partisan talking points. I need you to strip all of that away right now. Turn off the noise. Turn off the emotional manipulation. We are going to look at the cold, unforgiving mechanics of what just happened, how it happened, and the terrifying geopolitical question of who is actually pulling the strings. Because if you believe the narrative that a 31-year-old nobody from California almost decapitated the United States government all by himself, you are willfully blinding yourself to how the global chessboard actually operates. Let me set the scene with absolute surgical precision, because the details of this event are where the true horror lies. For decades, the White House Correspondents Dinner has been the ultimate symbol of Washington's untouchable, insulated elite. It is a fortress of arrogance. You have the president, the vice president, the entire cabinet, the most powerful journalists, and global corporate titans, all gathered under a single roof. This event is designed to project absolute American institutional control. The security perimeter is supposed to be impenetrable. We are talking about sweeping bomb dogs, magnetometers, heavily armed Secret Service tactical teams, and overlapping rings of federal and local law enforcement. And yet, that entire multi-million-dollar security apparatus was completely dismantled by a man named Cole Thomas Allen. How did the breach happen? The media will not give you the logistical breakdown because it exposes too much incompetence. Early intelligence leaks indicate that Allen did not storm the front gates. He exploited a massive, glaring, systemic vulnerability. He was registered as a hotel guest days in advance. He bypassed the outer security rings entirely because the system relies on the aesthetic of compliance. If you were dressed in a tailored tuxedo, walking with confidence, the heavily strained security forces waved you through to the inner pre-parties. Allen utilized the service elevators and the blind spots in the hotel's architecture. The exact same hotel, by the way, where Ronald Reagan was shot by John Hinckley Jr. in 1981. He managed to stage a small armory, a shotgun, a high-caliber handgun, and multiple tactical knives. Think about the sheer logistical impossibility of moving long guns through a venue locked down by the Secret Service. It requires blueprints. It requires an understanding of agent shift changes. It requires knowing exactly which security cameras are unmonitored. The guests were sitting in the grand ballroom. Donald Trump was near the dais. People were quietly eating a spring pea and burrata salad. The atmosphere was light, arrogant, and relaxed. In a fraction of a single second, that mundane reality was shattered. Cole Thomas Allen emerged from a compromised service corridor just feet from the primary checkpoint. Trump later stated he thought the initial noise was just a waiter dropping a heavy silver tray, but then came the deafening, unmistakable concussive blasts of 5 to 8 gunshots echoing off the ballroom walls. Total, absolute chaos. A Secret Service agent, reacting on pure muscle memory, stepped into the fatal funnel and was shot at point-blank range. His life was saved only by the advanced ballistic fibers of his vest. The suspect was immediately tackled, handcuffed, and dragged across the floor, while hundreds of the most powerful politicians and billionaires in America ducked under banquet tables, weeping in sheer terror. That is the physical event. Now, let us pivot to the analytical reality. The media is going to spend the next month obsessing over Cole Thomas Allen. They will dig into his background in Torrance, California. They will analyze his digital footprint, his high school records, and his psychological profile. They are desperately trying to paint him as the classic American archetype, the lone wolf, the radicalized madman who slipped through the cracks. Let me be incredibly direct with you. In the modern era of the surveillance state, the lone wolf is largely a myth. To execute an operation of this magnitude, to penetrate the inner sanctum of the executive branch with heavy weaponry, requires a level of operational security, funding, and tactical intelligence that a 31-year-old civilian simply does not possess. This brings us to the most dangerous question on the planet right now. The question that is keeping foreign policy analysts and military generals awake, staring at the ceiling. Cui bono? Who benefits? Who is really behind this? When you survive 3 assassination attempts, Butler, Pennsylvania in 2024, West Palm Beach, Florida later that same year, and now the Washington Hilton in 2026, you are no longer dealing with coincidences. You are dealing with a coordinated, systemic campaign to remove a leader from the board. So let us run through the geopolitical suspects, applying cold mathematical logic to each one. Suspect number 1 is the most obvious, and the one Donald Trump immediately pointed to, the Islamic Republic of Iran. Within hours of the shooting, standing at a podium flanked by FBI Director Kash Patel and Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, Trump dropped a geopolitical breadcrumb that set the world on fire. He called the shooter a sick person, but then explicitly stated it was too early to know if he was spurred by the ongoing U.S. war against Iran. He looked directly into the cameras and said, "You never know." In the high-stakes realm of international relations, words are weapons. Trump just placed a loaded gun on the global negotiating table. Does Iran have the motive? Absolutely. The echoes of Qasem Soleimani's assassination still dictate Tehran's foreign policy. They have openly, publicly vowed revenge against Donald Trump and his top officials for years. They have active hit squads and intelligence networks operating globally. Furthermore, the United States is currently engaged in a massive, escalating shadow war with Iranian proxies. Does Iran have the capability? Yes. Iranian intelligence, the IRGC, is highly sophisticated. But here is where the analytical mind must ask the hard questions. If Iranian intelligence wanted to decapitate the American government, would they use a white 31-year-old male from California with a shotgun? Actually, yes, they might. It is the perfect layer of plausible deniability. You do not send an Iranian national to shoot the president. That guarantees an immediate nuclear-level retaliation. Instead, you find a fractured, radicalized American online. You fund him through untraceable crypto wallets. You provide him with dark web logistical support, hotel floor plans, and operational confidence. You weaponize a domestic proxy. If this is true, Iran just proved they can reach out and touch the American president whenever they want. And if the FBI finds even a single encrypted text message linking Allen to Tehran, the retaliatory strikes will not be proportional. They will be catastrophic. We will see a full-scale regional war. But as an analyst, you must never stop at the most obvious suspect. We must look at suspect number 2, asymmetric terror networks, specifically ISIS-K, or a resurgent al-Qaeda offshoot. We have already seen ISIS-K execute massive, devastating attacks in Moscow, exploiting the exact same kind of security hubris that we just saw in Washington. These organizations thrive in the seams of a distracted empire. They watch America tear itself apart in partisan warfare, and they see an opening. They do not need to win a military victory. They only need to create maximum psychological terror. If an organization like ISIS-K managed to radicalize Cole Thomas Allen and guide him into that hotel, it represents a total failure of the trillion-dollar American intelligence apparatus. It means the homeland is entirely exposed. However, the methodology here, a close-quarters gunfight rather than a mass casualty explosive device, does not perfectly fit their traditional operational profile. It feels too targeted, too specific, which leads us to the most complex, terrifying, and historically profound possibility. Suspect number 3, the false flag, orchestrated by a foreign intelligence service aligned with or deeply embedded within the Western sphere. I want you to think about this without emotion. In the dark world of statecraft, the most brilliant operations are the ones designed to force your target into doing exactly what you want them to do, while making them think it was their own idea. Who benefits from Donald Trump adopting a posture of absolute, unrestrained military aggression in the Middle East. Who benefits from the United States completely abandoning diplomatic nuance and launching a devastating regime-ending war against Iran? There are state actors, allies, and frenemies alike, particularly in the Middle East, such as certain factions within Israel or the Gulf states, who view the current regime in Tehran as an existential threat that must be annihilated at all costs. But they cannot do it alone. They need the full, terrifying weight of the American military machine to do the heavy lifting. If a highly sophisticated foreign intelligence agency wanted to guarantee that Donald Trump stops negotiating and starts dropping bunker-buster munitions on Iranian nuclear sites, how would they do it? They would orchestrate an assassination attempt, ensure it fails or is stopped at the last possible second, and leave a trail of breadcrumbs leading directly back to Tehran. This forces Trump's hand. It weaponizes his ego and his survival instinct. It creates an undeniable casus belli. If this was a false flag designed to spark a war, it is a masterstroke of geopolitical manipulation. And finally, we must look at suspect number 4, the one nobody in Washington wants to talk about on camera. The domestic institutional fracture, the call coming from inside the House. I am not peddling conspiracy theories, I am assessing structural reality. Look at the sheer level of incompetence required for Cole Thomas Allen to get that close to the entire executive branch. The perimeter was soft, the hotel registry loophole was exploited, the service elevators were unguarded. When a security failure is this profound, you have to ask if it was merely incompetence or if it was complicity. The United States is currently experiencing a level of internal factional warfare not seen since the Civil War. There are deep, entrenched elements within the permanent bureaucracy, the intelligence community, and the military-industrial complex who view Donald Trump not just as a political opponent, but as an existential threat to the American institutional order. When security stands down or looks the other way, or simply fails to enforce basic protocols, it creates a permissive environment for violence. If a domestic faction facilitated this, even passively, by ensuring the perimeter was weak, it means the Republic is already in the final stages of systemic collapse. It means the Praetorian Guard is no longer protecting the Emperor. They are deciding his fate. Regardless of who pulled the strings, we must look at the immediate, terrifying fallout. The geopolitical landscape was just completely rewritten by the psychology of one man. Donald Trump compared himself to Abraham Lincoln last night. He told the press, "The people that make the biggest impact, they're the ones that they go after." I need you to understand the profound psychological shift that occurs when a human being survives 3 separate targeted attempts on their life. The hesitation that normally constrains a president completely vanishes. The cautious advice of diplomats and generals is suddenly dismissed as weakness and cowardice. Trump now fundamentally believes that his survival is an absolute mandate. He views himself not as a politician who can be debated, but as a historical force kept alive by destiny. When a leader adopts this psychology, they do not negotiate with their enemies, they dictate terms to them. The risk calculus of the Oval Office has just been permanently altered. Trump is now operating with the ironclad conviction of a man who believes he cannot be killed, backed by a security apparatus that operates with the sheer, unadulterated terror of knowing he almost was. In the next 48 hours, you are going to see a bureaucratic bloodletting unlike anything in modern history. The United States Secret Service is about to be purged. Heads will roll. Command structures will be totally dismantled. FBI Director Kash Patel, who was an active target in that very room, will weaponize his agency to hunt down every single associate of Cole Thomas Allen. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche will seek sweeping, unprecedented legal authorities. The United States is about to lock down. We are entering an era of fortified governance. The days of open, accessible political events are over. The imperial capital will become a militarized fortress. And on the global stage, the trap is set. By invoking Iran immediately, Trump has put every foreign capital on notice. They are currently scrambling their intelligence assets, desperate to prove they had no part in this, because they know the retaliation will be apocalyptic. The American shield was proven to be fundamentally porous last night. To the rest of the world, America does not look like a terrifying unified superpower today. It looks like a wounded, bleeding empire that cannot even secure a hotel ballroom in its own capital. And in geopolitics, weakness is the ultimate provocation. It invites further testing of boundaries. The clock did not just reset, the entire board was flipped over. The trajectory of history is rarely changed by a single bullet. It is changed by the massive, overcompensating, earth-shattering reaction to that bullet. Do not focus on the glamorous attendees brushing glass off their tuxedos. Focus on the structural fallout happening behind closed doors. The illusion of American invulnerability is dead. The fortress is under siege, and the real story of how this night changes the world and who is truly pulling the strings from the shadows is only just beginning. Stay sharp. Watch the quiet moves.